I'm Lee Spencer with RacinBoys.com, and I'm with Joe Nemechek, better known as Front Row Joe to some people. Right now, for the last, well, you're still an owner-operator, but Nemco Motorsports, you've done well with a couple of trucks this year. Certainly been a great platform for John Hunter Nemechek, getting him exposure and giving him a ride that has, opened the eyes of a lot of people. With John Hunter, expected, I will say, to move on to the Xfinity Series full-time next year. What do you see happening with Nemco Motorsports?
Well, good to be here, and that's a good question. And we are trying to find the next driver that we can try and educate, the same way that we've put John Hunter through the racing circuit. I think a good part of any driver right now is trying to educate them in the right way. It's just not all about driving on the track. It's learning about the cars. It's learning about what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. There's so much involved in being good in this day and time. It's just not about hopping in and going. And I've done that with John Hunter over the last few years. Again, from late models, which we have a super late model team, crate late models. We have all that stuff here still. Our truck series team, I think we have 12 trucks in the shop right now. And we're winning races, and we can win races in all of them. So, I think it's very important to educate the drivers correctly, and we are looking for that next driver that we can educate and get them up there and start winning races, and it'll be the next guy to move on. I think when you start getting into the Xfinity and the Cup Series, they're going to need drivers in the next few years. So if you can, as a new driver coming in, if you can get educated correctly and with the right people, you're going to have a heck of a lot of opportunities in the future.
We've seen a lot of change in NASCAR. We were talking a little bit with your crew chief, Jerry Kennan, earlier about, dirt right now is a huge hotbed. But there's also the transition that you have to go through to go from dirt. And NASCAR, with them purchasing ARCA, I think that they're still trying to figure out where ARCA figures in with K&N. We've seen a lot of these kids now coming up through K&N Pro Series, East and West. But to get to trucks, what do you think is the best route if you're looking at how things are set up right now?
Well, again, it's being in quality equipment and with equipment that is capable of winning. Okay, you have to know where your limitations are. As a driver, you're trying to make laps, but you need to be competitive week in and week out. And whether it's late models, ARCA, K&N, or getting into the truck series, you have to be in competitive equipment, and you have to have someone helping you understand what is going on and how the whole how the whole program works. There's more than just driving. It's tough out there. There's a lot of teams out there, and just getting hooked up. There's so many drivers that make the mistake of coming in and not getting help. Okay, not having the correct people around them. And the price they pay is normally they're here for a year or 2 years, and then they're gone. And if people are serious about that, they need to think about how even the families of these kids that are trying to move up from legend cars, bandoleros, whatever it may be, if they're going to be involved in racing, you got to get them hooked up with the right people to educate them properly. And being a racer, when John Hunter was coming up, I knew what he needed to know and what's going to make him successful for the future. How is the sport changing? And what does he need to know? And he took a big part of that himself to figure out what he needed to do and how he needed to do it. And again, as a dad and as a racer, making sure he learned the proper things about the race cars in what he needed to do on the racetrack and how to do it. You know, there's a lot of things that again, myself, Jerry Kennan, the guys on our crew help educate, and it's learning. A lot of it's repetition, but there's a lot of things that the communication skills are second to none now. I mean, with limited testing, with a lot of the rules that are in place in NASCAR, I mean, you got to be very, very efficient at every area you can be to be successful.
I've been here to the shop in the past, and it's not unusual to see John Hunter working on his equipment, and that is a dying breed. I would have to say of the guys I look at Cup right now, the Busch brothers, certainly with Tom Busch, you know, he brought the kids up the right way from the standpoint of knowing how the cars work. And certainly, you know, cars are so much more sophisticated now, but I think that the drivers that have an understanding of just the basic mechanics of the trucks and the cars have a better way of communicating what they need to make the cars better on a long run. Certainly we saw, and particularly this past weekend at Homestead, so many guys were dialed out and did not have a car or a truck to compete at the end of these races. And you know, just the very basics of motorsports could carry a driver a long way.
Absolutely, and there's so many pieces to that puzzle. Knowing what fuel you need in the race car or truck is so important nowadays. And again, I just remember back when I had Donnie Allison helping me get started. You know, we would go test, and he'd say, okay, how does it drive right now after 10 laps? And the thing is, you would have to try and figure out back then in 5 or 10 laps how that thing was going to drive at 80 laps or 100 laps on the tires. Didn't do a lot of tire changes back then. So, I mean, there's some of that stuff still applies. You still have to know, and you learn what you need in practice to make your truck right. And you got to be able to do that from a 3-lap run or a 5-lap run and know what that's going to be like in 20 laps. Still a lot of variables and all that, and trying to get the trucks fast. And we take pride here at Nemco Motorsports in all of our vehicles. I mean, making sure they look right, drive right. We're fast. You know, we've won quite a few races with John Hunter. We've given a lot of them away this year. Had a lot of dominant trucks. I know of at least seven to 10 races that we were in contention of winning, and we were leading up until the last couple laps, and had something happen, whether it's fuel or ignition or something, and it's just, you know, it's heartbreaking to me because I know how much pride with our crew. We're dedicated to have the best possible equipment each and every week, and we do a lot with a little here, and makes me feel good that we are competitive each and every week.
Speaking of doing a lot with a little, our new champion Brett Moffitt in Hattori Racing, it's a perfect example of a kid who was fast-tracked, you know, came up through the Toyota system, spent, you know, several years in K&N, and was thrust into Cup. Probably, he would admit even now, a little bit prematurely. I mean, he wasn't with the right Cup team when he was, you know, like, I think he had that great finish filling in for Michael Waltrip Racing, but some of these kids get pushed, you know, before they're really ready to, and you know, I think Brett showed by taking a step back, he could be successful. You know, where do you find that balance when a kid's ready, you know, how much time they need to really get seasoned before taking that next step?
Well, again, there's a lot of pieces to that question. You know, and it's like Brett. You know, he's been successful in K&N. I think he's had a lot of success in the Xfinity Series. I know he's doing a lot of test driving there for a while. Tried to do the Cup thing, it just wasn't the right scenario. Then took a step back, and he's had success. You know, I think again for a young man, he's got exceptional talent. You know, I know John Hunter and himself along with a number of the other drivers out there. They're talking and hanging out and stuff all the time. And these kids, a lot of these kids have talent. And again, it's putting yourself in the right opportunity. And just like I know there's some of the guys that are in Xfinity, if they're not in competitive stuff, sometimes that can do more damage than it does good. So I think a lot of them are starting to look at, hey, let's try to get with a better team for less races to try to have success. And the same thing is stepping back from the Xfinity series to the truck series. And let's get in good stuff. We can go out there, we can win some races, and it kind of rejuvenates the career. But for the new kids starting, I think you just have to pay so much attention to making the right decisions getting started. And if you make those right decisions, it'll pay dividends in the end when it comes time to, as far as winning races and then making that next step from whether it's the K&N series to ARCA or ARCA to truck or truck to Xfinity, and eventually getting to the Cup Series.
I listened to Barney Visser the other night about the benefits of a single car team. And he said that, we put all of our attention on Martin and Cole. That's all we had to worry about was 78. Yeah, they had that two-car team for a while, but that was more of a favor to Toyota Racing because they had to have somewhere to go with Eric. But, Barney said that he thinks that what they're working with now will somewhat be diluted because you're spreading it across, so many different platforms when you do have a multi-car team. What does Nemco, or what can Nemco offer a kid coming in who just really, wants all that attention on himself and doesn't want to have to share the spotlight with anybody else under that roof to get, kind of expedite the learning curve?
Well, I think that's twofold there. Nemco Motorsports, we're committed to whoever comes in to making sure they are successful. And we figure that out. We figure out how to educate the driver to get him in a position where he can be successful. I think some of the things that we have to offer is even with, as far as someone new coming into this, even with myself, with the racing experience and knowledge that I have, trying to pass that on. Same thing that I've done with John Hunter. Well, John Hunter's in the mix now too. He's a big part of our operation here. The knowledge that he's gained in the truck series, he's willing to help the younger drivers coming in, and that's huge. There's so many drivers out there that don't get any help from they can be in multi-car teams, and the other drivers don't help each other. With us, we're going to spread that knowledge. We're going to pass that knowledge on. And I know John Hunter is committed to trying to help the next driver that comes in to be successful. And he knows all these racetrack. He knows the feel you got to have in these trucks. And I think he's going to be a big asset to whoever we get over here.
I hate to ask this because I know it's personal, but what kind of financial commitment are you looking for from somebody who wants to take their kid to the next level in, say, either late models or trucks?
Well, that's a tough question because there's so much that's based in there. There's so many variables that are fixed, as far as your payroll. You got to have the people you need. You got to have tires each and every week. You got to have competitive equipment. That number, it's a big variable. The late model program, just depending on how many races you can run. That's hard to say. We have budgets done on how do you want to try and run, and the same thing in the truck series. If it's from we're not going to get out and try to run 20th in the truck series. We have equipment that can win, and that's what we're trying to do. So we gotta find the right person that fits that can bring some dollars to get that program in the mode to win races.
So do you have plans on running Snowball Derby this year?
We are not. We were talking about it, and we did not get the financial commitments that we needed to go down there. The Snowball Derby is probably the most expensive race there is for late model racing. We've been down there a number of times. We've won it once. We've won the Snowflake once or twice. We've been in contention to win that race 4 times. Should have been 3 or 4 in a row, and we've had some issue right at the end of the race, which is very disappointing. But Pensacola, the Snowball Derby, I mean, we have equipment that's capable of winning those races, and it's just unfortunate we didn't make it last year. Finished second the year before lost it by a nose, and it's a special place. It's a fun racetrack. We really haven't advertised our late model program a lot this year, but it's all sitting here ready to go and ready to. That's a whole nother program as far as for educating, kids coming out of the legend cars or bandoleros and trying to start in the late models, and we've got some state-of-the-art race cars.
Of ARCA and K&N, what of the two would be more advantageous as a stepping stone if they were looking to go to trucks, and would either of those types of program work as a precursor to getting to the truck level?
I think both the programs are good. We actually have a couple K&N cars. The ARCA cars right now, we do not have. The K&N cars could be converted over to that, but again, getting seat time in good quality cars is what you need. Both the ARCA series, they run on radial tires, and this past year was the first year that K&N ran on the radial tires, kind of the same stuff that we run in the truck and Xfinity and Cup series. So, getting that feel of those tires versus bias ply tires is important. So any laps they can make in those cars is very important to getting into the truck series. In ARCA, you can run some bigger racetracks to get that experience. But again, getting started, getting used to competition, running side by side, trying to outthink your competitors on the racetrack and off. Late models are probably the biggest bang for the buck to get that experience, and then move into doing some K&N or ARCA, and then moving into the truck series.
So if a parent or an agent thinks that perhaps they have the next truck series rookie out there, how can they get a hold of you, Joe?
You can reach us at Nemco Motorsports or nemcomotorsports.com. Just look us up. We're online. Give us a call. We're in Mooresville, North Carolina. We'll get back to you. Leave a message, and we'll definitely get back to you. I mean, we just have so many exciting things going on that it's a shame that we have this. I think we have a state-of-the-art shop. We've always kind of been known as the underdogs, but if people get here to see what we have to offer, you'll understand why we run like we do. And the commitment of myself, Jerry Kennan, our other employees is second to none. You won't find anybody, especially in the past, with a smaller budget, we've had to outwork and we've had to outthink our other competitors to beat them. And we've been able to do that. And that's a very, very proud moment. But give us a call at Nemco Motorsports. You can look us up, go online, leave us a message, and we will definitely get right back to you.
Well, considering 2018 appeared to be the year of the underdog, whether we look at Brett Moffitt winning the Truck Series, Tyler Reddick winning the Xfinity Series, or even Joey Logano, who called himself the me of the big three and me, I think that couldn't ask for a better time to be on the lookout for that next talented young driver, Joe.
Absolutely, and there's so many new kids that are coming up from starting to race go-karts, and then they get into legend cars, making the progression. We've done the same thing. I've seen it done. But again, getting with the right people, the right organization that can handle the needs that you have, but most importantly, they need to be successful. And as far as any parents out there listening, I mean, your kids, they need to get hooked up with the right organization that can have success. Because if you get into this and you don't, and you're not in competitive equipment, again, the days, you're only going to do it for so long and you only get so many shots. And I think that's what, as far as the, again, truck teams, the Xfinity owners, and the Cup owners, they're looking for that progression on how you've done. And again, same thing with John Hunter. He's got a heck of an opportunity in front of him as far as running full time in Xfinity, and he'll be in Cup here shortly. I can tell you that he's got the talent to do that. But getting the right education to make the right decisions is so important for your kids if they want to continue into the sport.
I really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you.